So today we're going to do the handover video on the Burstner Nexxo 660. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So firstly, coming over to the passenger side, you'll notice that you've got your fill-up points, and this is for your diesel. So your diesel just goes into there. Make sure it's diesel and not water or petrol. That goes straight into there. To open up the bonnet on the Fords, you've got a little keyhole here. All you need to do is put the key in there, turn it one way to release the lock, turn it the other to then release the entire mechanism, and that'll allow you to pop the bonnet. I'll do that for you now. Now, as you can see, I've got the key in there, which just releases the bonnet release catch, and I've got the bonnet up. Now, the main things that you need to know underneath here is if you're ever jump starting the vehicle. If that is the case, your positive connects onto here and your negative connects onto this point here, as indicated by the sticker. Coming round just over here, you'll notice that you've got your power steering fluid, you've got your engine oil along with your dipstick there, and then coming above that, you'll notice you've got your brake disc fluid. So coming away from the bonnet and making my way round the vehicle, you'll notice that on this side of the vehicle you've got your habitation door along with your step, along with the awning which is above that. I'll send you a separate video on the awning and how to operate that, but as you can see, you've got two of your fridge vents either side. This is where the fridge pulls its air from, so with that in mind, if this area is covered by sun, it's obviously going to make the fridge work less efficiently. So do bear in mind that if the fridge is on, put this under shelter or put the awning out just to give it a bit of shade to help that out. On this side, you'll notice that you've got a little valve written Truma on there, and that is for your boiler system. This is in essence your chimney or your flue. That does get very hot, so do be careful. Don't put anything on there as it will burn. At the back, you'll then notice you've got a storage locker where you can load up the vehicle up with all your bits and bobs. I'll open that up for you now. And as you can see now, with the locker door open, you've got access to all your bits in there, along with your awning pole as well. Now in the back here, this is also very important. You'll notice you have a little hole in the back, and inside there it's quite hard to see. If I let a little bit of a light in, quite difficult to see on the video. However, you have got a yellow valve in there. As you can see, this is your little yellow switch that I'm talking about, and this allows you to drain down the boiler system. Now, to operate that, all you need to do, at the moment it's in the closed position, all you need to do is simply flick that up like so, and that'll allow the boiler to open and it'll allow it to drain down. Now, whilst we're on the topic of drain down valves, you have three main drain down points in the van. The first one is the boiler drain down point, which is here. You need to make sure that that's always drained when you're not using the vehicle. Your second one's your wastewater drain down point, which is on the other side of the vehicle, along with your freshwater drain down point, which is on the inside of the vehicle, which again I'll show you. Whilst we're on the topic of these drain downs, as I say, you can leave all the drain down points open, because as you're travelling, the water, or the vibrations of the road rather, is going to make sure all that water dumps. And as I've opened that, you can just see that a bit of water's trickling out there, just to show you how that works. Now coming round, you have a bike rack on the back there for three bikes, and above that you've got a reversing camera. You've also got a tow bar fitted to this model as well. Moving around to the back, and on the other side you've got another locker here. This holds your cassette toilet. Now, the main thing to know with the cassette toilet is that the blade on the toilet is always closed when removing the system. It should always be closed. I'll go into more detail about that when we're on the inside of the vehicle. However, make sure that that is. I'll open this up now for you and show you how to remove it. With the cassette locker open, you can see that you've got access to the cassette. To open this up, or to remove it rather, lift up on this little handle here, lift that up, and it'll allow it to slide out and come free. I'm going to remove this now, put it on the ground, and I'll show you how to operate and drain down your the cassette toilet. Now, with the cassette open, or out rather, you can see that this is the system, and this is where all the waste will go. Now, to empty this and drain it down, simply screw this out, unscrew the cap, and then click the button on the back of the cassette. Press that in, and that will release a vacuum which is internal to the vehicle and dump out all the contents of the cassette. Once you've done that, put a bit of water in here to rinse it out, and then you're good to go. Simply put the cap back on, turn the funnel back into its spot, and you can slide it in. Now you'll also notice you have another green valve here. This does turn. As I mentioned, on the inside you have a valve which will, or a blade rather, which will open and close the cassette to allow waste in. This should always be in this position because that will allow you to obviously remove it and obviously push it back in. You shouldn't need to move that, so do bear that in mind. I'm going to pop that back in now and we'll continue around the van. Moving on from the cassette, we are now moving on to your drain down point for your wastewater. As you can see rather, underneath here you've got a black valve with a little handle on the top of that. To empty this, simply turn that valve and that'll empty and dump all the wastewater out. You can see this tank is external, so do bear that in mind. This could freeze, so what I typically recommend is putting a bucket underneath here and leaving that open so all the wastewater drains outside the van to avoid frost damage. Now moving on, up at the top you have your hookup cable for your 230 volt mains electric, so when you're on your campsite this is what you'll be using. And across from here you have your gas locker along with a couple bits in there. The one main thing for the gas is to always make sure that it's turned off at the bottle when travelling due to safety. And one thing to know as well is when in use you can then turn it on from the bottle to then feed the gas through via a pigtail. Moving along, you'll notice you've got your water system here. This is how you fill up your fresh water tank. You simply unscrew this cap, remove it and put a food grade hose pipe into there and fill it up. Obviously when it's coming out at you, you know it's full, and then you can put the cap back on. Now underneath there is your fresh water tank. As I mentioned before, your fresh water tank is internal to the vehicle as opposed to the wastewater which is at the back, which again I'll show you how to empty. So that concludes the outside of the vehicle. We're now going to move on to the inside of the vehicle. Now do bear in mind the vehicle hasn't had a valet yet. I'm just trying to get this vehicle out, this video rather, out to you as soon as. So with that in mind, coming through the habitation door, up at the top, you're greeted with your control panel. So just to talk through your control panel, right at the top you can see you've an alarm button and you've also a little icon just indicating that we are plugged in. That's lighting up just to show that we are hooked up to mains. The alarm button, a lot of people think that's an internal alarm or to do with the security system. However, it's not. That alarm is just there just in case you get an error code or anything on here, so don't get that mixed up. Now coming back to this, below that you can see that these are your vehicle batteries, or your leisure batteries rather, and it'll show you your vehicle battery levels. So firstly, you've got your vehicle battery, which is at the front. Click that, and that shows you your level. And then the back one is your leisure battery. Hold that, and that will show you your level at the top. Now coming to the middle, you'll notice that you have a 12 volt button, and you've also an off button there. Click the off button, and as you can see, that turns off all your lights in the vehicle, except from these porch lights, which are individual on the switches below. Now coming back up to turn this on, click the button on. That's your main master button in essence, and as you can see your lights are back on. Coming back to the other side, you'll notice that you've two more buttons. You've one for your fresh water, which shows you your level, and then you've one below for your wastewater tank, which again shows you your level. We've got a little bit in at the moment, hence why that is showing and reading. Right at the end, you've then got your pump. Clicking on your pump, that'll activate it and allow you to pull water through the system. One thing you need to know is that with the pump, you need to make sure that you've got water in the system before clicking that, because you don't want to burn out the pump, because that will happen if you've no water in. So when you're on site, click your pump on, then go to your tap, turn that on and turn it to hot. What that's going to do is it's going to pull fresh water from the fresh water tank into the boiler, which will in essence prime the boiler, and then dump it out of the tap. Once it'll spurt and splutter, and then once it's running steadily, you've primed your system for your hot water. Flick it over to the cold and do the exact same. Now, what I'd recommend is when you're firstly getting on site, you need to do that to make sure there's water in that boiler. And once you've done that, go over to your Truma control panel, which is just in the bed section here, which I'll show you later, and turn your heating on so that boiler can begin heating that water which you've primed through to the boiler. You need to do that for your priming your system on all your taps, including your shower as well. Okie dokie, so coming away from the control panel and into your kitchen area, and the kitchen, you'll notice that you've got your oven and grill up there, along with your fridge, which is down here. Your fridge is a 3-way fridge, and it's a Dometic fridge, as you can see. On here you've got the option of running it off gas, 230 volt or your 12 volt leisure battery, and using this dial you can alter between the two, or between the three rather. In the up position it's off, as you can see by the little 0 there. Now a lot of people think they can run the fridge off the 12 volt when they're wild camping. However, that is not the case. Make sure that if you are wild camping, you run it off your gas. If you still run it off your 12 volt system, you'll simply drain the vehicle of all of its battery, because it draws out a lot of power, so bear that in mind. Majority of the time, 9 times out of 10, when you're on site, you'll be hooking it up to your mains electric, which is there. The next dial along is just for your temperature. And the main thing you need to remember with your fridge is it's not like a domestic fridge at home. It doesn't draw the same amount of power. So with that in mind, you need to ensure that if you're wanting cooled things in the fridge, put cooled things in. It's a little bit like the freezer. If you want frozen things in the freezer, put frozen things in, because it'll just maintain that temperature. It does a very good job at that. So now coming over to the kitchen area, again just opposite your fridge, you'll notice your 3 burners for your hob. And then as you can see, you've got your sink there, along with your cupboards, which is below, just for your storage. Now before I move on to the bed, one thing that you've got down here, which is just on the base of your bed, are your control panels for your heating, and also some isolator switches. These red switches are isolator switches, as I say. You have got one more somewhere else in the van, I believe it's in the kitchen area. Now with these, you don't need to do anything with them, leave it as they are. In essence, they're just for us and the technicians, for when they're simply working on the vehicle, so don't touch them. Next, your heating system. Your heating system is run exclusively off the gas, and as you can see in the middle with that same 0, it's on the off position. Now if you're wanting to heat the water, as I say, this is gas, you can flick it onto the 40 or the 60. 40 degrees is approximately 40 degrees rather, and you're going to be using that when you're having a shower, and then you'll flick it onto the top 61 up at the top there. It's quite hard to see on the camera, but just up at the top, when you're washing your pots and pans. Now below that, if you just want to heat the vehicle, you can do so by just again flicking that dial down and selecting the gas icon there, and that'll heat the internal of the vehicle. And then right at the bottom you'll notice that there's a gas flame along with 2 squiggles and a 60, and that's for if you want to heat the internals of the vehicle along with have hot water. 9 times out of 10 you're going to be flicking it on that. And as I say, do this as soon as you get on site once you prime your system, because it is going to take naturally a bit of time to heat up your water. You can also see that above your bed you've storage, and I've just popped up the back here just as an access point into the storage bit there. So you've got the garage area, and along with a bit more storage here, which is top loading, which is nice. Now next to the bed, you'll notice you've got your shower area and your bathroom area. Your shower and your bathroom is the exact same. As I say, you'll just simply, as I've explained, so you just simply turn them on and turn it to hot to prime your system, and vice versa with the water, the cold water rather. Now coming right to the end, you'll notice you've got your toilet area. Your blade, as I mentioned, and during use you need to make sure you do this, is here. So all you need to do during use is simply turn this. That'll open the blade and allow you to see to the inside of the toilet. Once you've done that, you can then let all the waste drop into the cassette, and once you've done that, click your blue button, which will flush the entire cassette. Once you've done that, you need to close the blade. You close the blade for one of 2 reasons. You close it to firstly make sure that there's no odours escaping from the cassette once you've done the business, and you also close it because it gets you in the habit of closing that blade, so when you come to remove the cassette, it's not getting jammed. As I say, your blue button activates your flush. Click that. As I say, that'll activate it, but you need to make sure that your pump is always on for that to work. So coming away from the bathroom area, back into the kitchen and to the front of the lounge, you'll notice that at the side of the bathroom and the kitchen, you have an infill cushion here. It's quite hard to see on the video, so I do apologise for that due to the light. However, you have in the back got a trip box here. If I move out of the way, I don't know whether that helps. And that trip box is if the vehicle ever trips, you can come to this area here. I'll just shine some light onto it, that's a bit easier. And as you can see, that is your trip box. If the vehicle ever trips, you need to come to this area. You'll notice you have a blue button on there which says T, that's a test button. So for example, if you have got all your, if you do get in the vehicle and you can't get any power to the vehicle, click that test button, and if all them little switches drop and trip, you know that you're getting power to the vehicle, so there's therefore not a problem with the hookup cable that you're using or a fault with the site that you're on. It's simply a fault with your vehicle, and from there you can then check all your fuses and things like that. Up at the top as well, I'll keep this torch on so you can see, you'll notice that you've got your status aerial. You need to make sure that that's on, as you can see by the red light on there. And to operate this, you simply unscrew that plastic coil, push the aerial up, and then tighten it into place. You have got a little arm on the bottom as well, which will help you tilt the head of the aerial. Opposite that, you have had motorhome Wi-Fi fitted in this specific vehicle, and that is all neatly tucked away in there. All you'll need to do is get your SIM card in there to get it activated so you can begin using it. So coming into your lounge, as I mentioned, you've got your TV up at the top, which is all in, and on all your blinds, on all your windows rather, you've got a blackout blind, which is just there. These windows do open as well by unhooking the little black latches there, but do make sure that all your windows, including your roof lights, are all closed when travelling off. Now the final thing that I need to talk you through before we end for today's video is your freshwater drain down point. Your final drain down point is internal to the vehicle, and it is underneath this bench seat here. I'll remove this seat and show you how to operate that now. So with the seat dismantled, I've just pushed this up for you. You can see that you've got access to the fresh water tank rather. All you need to do to drain this down is unscrew the red cap, pop that out, and you can see there's a plug attached to that. Simply pull this out and that will drain down the entire system. Obviously when you're putting it in, you need to put that plug back in. Simply line up the red cap here and screw this into place, like so, to get it nice and secure, as I have done there. And that'll just drain down the entire system, as I say. And that concludes the handover video on the Burstner Nexxo 660. I hope you enjoyed.